Notice all the dust in the air. I'm getting a direct wind from the quarry right now. It's gritty and blowing in my eyes. Totally dusting everything.
This thing was dry last week, but you can see the receded water level just from last week when they added all the motors up in the ditch. Here, see that hose right there, that blue and yellow hose? That's what they were using to pump the Quarry Lake out. And they ran it right over here. You can see where it was running on these rocks. And that's what they put all their sewage from that Quarry Lake, the poisoned water, into the creek that people drink out of, all on Mill Creek Lane that comes out at State Beach. Cedar Rock Quarry Lake is about 10 feet deep right now. It was 20 feet last summer when they started pumping it, and a lot of it they pumped straight across the swamp over there that flows into Parker Creek and Mill Creek. But for the second half of the pumping, they used that yellow and blue fire hose to pump it straight into the creek. And there's no bad water. Everything died, when they started washing all their equipment in it, from the cell tower and the cement making. And hopefully everyone downstream was okay. But it's pretty egregious that they're just pumping it straight into the waterway. See this flat here? This totally covers over the Mill Creek Quarry fork of the creek. It just backs up over there and works its way under and comes out in this swamp. And when it does that, it changes directions. Some of it goes into Mill Creek, some of it comes into Parker Creek. They go to different beaches, different sides of Trinidad Head. Hey, this is a branch of Mill Creek Lane up near the top, just under the plateau that the A-line's on up there above Trinidad. And here's where it goes onto the road, and it's a small branch of the creek. It's a nice little creek, and then it hits the old railroad grade that the Mercer-Fraser owns, and backs up behind that, and it comes out in a swamp on the other side and spreads out, much of it going through Bill's yard, and then forming up forming up into a deep ravine again on the other side, and going into Mill Creek as a good sized little creek right before the highway under aqueduct or tunnel, whatever it is, culvert. And so we're going to travel down this and see what it looks like when it's the other end. And we're going to look at the rock quarry while we're on our way there too. This is much worse than I thought. There's 120 feet of just hydrated, porous, tailless pile that they've been dumping here, with the creek right at the base of it is in the creek, and this ground is all full of aluminum and silica and asbestos and whatever heavy metals going leaching straight into the creek. And people drink that water, people swim in that ocean right there at State Beach. You can't even see from up above. It looks like they just got a small pile at the top, but it's just running down here. The water's getting changing color.
So what's going on right here? Can you explain it to people?
They've been dumping all this gravel. This isn't an area this is above the quarry. We're not below the quarry. We're well above the quarry. They hauled all this rock up onto that plateau up there and pulled those rocks aside and into this creek. And they threw a little bit of straw. You can't see it here. A couple of places they threw a little bit of straw, but not much. And now this dirty rock is washing and changing the color of the creek. It's becoming turgid, like it has all year. So here's more of this where they're filling in the creek. We're behind Mill Creek Lane right now. They've been filling it for a couple hundred yards here, just filling it in. There's the quarry gate, and here's this creek coming out of this side of it, which is the creek that's been running along that whole wall of rock they've been throwing in. And we're going to walk in and see where the neighbor had to trench it. There never used to be a creek there before. It used to go the other way into Mill Creek Lane, but this neighbor had to trench it because it was flooding his yard.
Oh gosh, it stinks up here.
Yeah. So this is their creek. It didn't used to be here. And here's where the neighbor has trenched it to keep it up from flooding his well and his septic system. neighbor had to ditch this out because there didn't used to be a creek here. Because the quarry was flooding him with so much water that's supposed to be going in the other direction. This water is going to wind up coming out at Indian Beach, but it's really supposed to be Mill Creek and come out at State Beach. But since they've diverted it this way, the neighbor had to trench it out to keep his yard from flooding. And over here, across the road, is where all the trees are dying because of this new creek. Well, it hasn't rained in 2 weeks, and this is their drainage out of the quarry, their misdirected drainage. And you can see it's still got that ugly gray color of turbidity. It was a lot worse before, but like I said, it hasn't rained in a few weeks. And this is a channel that the neighbor made to keep it from poisoning his field over here. But at high water, it flows over anyway. But this all winds up going to Hidden Creek, which is 40 yards that way, and which comes out, goes behind Quarry Road, behind the Hidden Creek Trailer Park, and goes under the freeway and comes out at Indian Beach. Which is an impacted creek for pollution. The state's given the town and the county a whole lot of trouble about it. This is where that new creek is coming out that we were just looking at. It goes under the road, and this culvert they put here 3 years ago. And that's the way the water used to go when it was overflowing. But now the neighbor has trenched it that way to keep it up, because I told him his trees were dying. And if you look up, see all these healthy green redwoods? That's the way they are. Still that way 24/7, 3/2. And look at these trees. Where'd all the leaves go? They're hating it. They're not quite dead, but they're barely alive. There's 4 clusters of them.
As of when did they start dying?
When I diverted this water 3 years ago. It used to go in a different direction, in 2 different directions. Some of it that came out of the quarry would cross the road over there and get creeked up pretty fast and come out at Park Creek. And others of it would go that way and wind up in Mill Creek Lane, but now they're shoving it all this way, and it's not clean water. Amongst all their stockpiled rock here, there's a bunch of rock they brought in from their Mad River operation. They hauled this rock here so that they could crush it later. This isn't from around here. You can see it's all river rock. Some pretty pieces in there too. A bunch of agates.
So now, are they allowed to bring in river rock to pulverize?
I don't think they are allowed to do anything. We don't have a permit, but when they did have a permit, they said they were only going to be doing materials that were here on site already, and then they weren't going to be doing a big processing operation. But they don't have a permit anymore, so I guess they can do what they want.